Hello. I want to make a video specifically for beginners, like really, really early on beginners who've never even seen their natal chart before, because I think it's an important thing that people get a chance to come online and they're able to just see it for themselves and dig into it on their own, which is pretty exciting times we live in. Now, I want to apologize. I'm not going to be appearing on screen today because I think that my swimmer strong physique is so distracting that we wouldn't be able to learn how to read a natal chart if I were to appear. So there's not going to be any boxes in the corners or anything. You're just going to have to click the next video if that's what you're here for. Anyways, for the people who aren't pervs, let's take a look at a natal chart. And I'm going to go to my favorite site, Astro-Seek. You can see here there's that finicky dash right there, which is going to make it a little bit more difficult. But at any rate, this is what you're going to do. You're going to click on free horoscopes, and we're going to go to birth natal chart online calculator. And we'll click there, and it's going to pop this up. Now, we're going to do just the most basic thing possible. We're not going to play with settings. I mean, astrology is infinite, yes, yes, yes. But we're just going to look at what comes up on this chart and just see if there's a way for us to walk through it and learn a bit about ourselves as we're doing this. Alright, so we're going to pick a random, we're going to place him in Toronto. I wish I was there eating sushi right now. Well, we'll give him a random birth date somewhere in here. We'll go back to 1970. That sounds nice. What time? I don't know. 4 a.m. Born 4 a.m. It sounds good. It's a nice person. This is a good person. Okay, here we are. So this is your natal chart, right? Not yours specifically, but, you know, we'll see. Now, we're not going to change any of the settings. We're just going to work with what we have here. And there are some things on their basic chart that I don't really use. Like, I never used Black Moon Lilith. But who knows? Maybe someday I'll change. But, so, the first thing we've got here is we're just going to look at the shape of this chart. Now, I use Chiron, but this right here is Chiron. Let's forget about it for now. This is a more nebulous, esoteric issue. What we're going to look at first is the main planets. And so now I'm going to highlight it here. This is the moon. See, it looks like the moon, the blue guy there. And then this is Mercury. See the green guy there with the horns, the ears? Mercury, he's listening. It's very nice. This is Venus, the green lady over here. Yeah, that's Venus. This is the sun, the circle with the dot, the red circle. This is the sun. Then this is Mars, God of War. Ooh, fiery Mars. Okay. Then we're going to move to Jupiter. This is the red guy here. And then we're going to move to nasty old Saturn up here. Here's Saturn, way up high in this chart. Okay. And then from there, we're going to use Uranus, which is this funky symbol right here. And then Neptune, which kind of looks like a trident. Yeah, okay, makes sense. And then we're going to go to Pluto. We're also going to use Pluto. And that would be right here. This funky blue guy right here. Okay, so we've got a sense of where the planets are, where the main planets are we want to work with. So the first thing we're going to look at is we're just going to talk about what this really represents, this chart, this circle. This circle is the ecliptic, which is a narrow band through which all the planets pass, and it's really defined by where the sun is, okay? And so throughout the year, the sun is going to move through this band. It's going to move all the way up and then back. So this year we're in Virgo season for this chart. Every one of these planets is moving at its own pace. Every month the moon is going to move all the way around this chart. So this is a two-dimensional representation of three-dimensional reality out there. And this is divided by this line right here. You see ASC and DSC? This is the horizon. Okay? Over here is the eastern horizon where the sun is going to rise. You're going to get a sunrise over here. And this is the western horizon where the sun is going to set. Now, this line here, the MCIC axis, denotes the highest and lowest points on the ecliptic. And so, right off the bat, astrology is very literal. What you see is what you get. Now, of course, there's layers and layers of mythology and meaning, but you have to start by understanding that it was a visual medium that ancient astrologers saw things happening and noted what took place. And so some of these things remain to this day very important interpretive parts. Namely, it's this. Everything above the horizon is visible. Although if the sun were up here, you wouldn't be able to see the planets. It blots out the planets. But essentially, they're rising, they're above, they're out in the world. Planets up in this part of the chart, anywhere above this line, are going to be more noticeable to others and more concerned with existence on this plane, on the physical plane. Whereas planets below the horizon are more internal. This is what's below the horizon. And any planet here is going to manifest itself in more of an internalized, sometimes subconscious way. Now, this line here denotes everything west of this line is setting. It's moving back towards darkness. And within astrology, you have yin and yang factors, many, many different yin and yang factors. But anything setting is moving towards the yin, towards darkness. So everything here is more reactive and more receptive. It's taking in energy and it's reacting to others. Whereas once it crosses the IC, this is a planet that's pushing its energy out to the rest of the chart. So for this chart here, you see most of the things are below the horizon, and most of them are rising, below the horizon and rising. This is a very internal person who's pushing their own ideas out towards others. Now, every one of these planets represents many different things. There's a mythology, but there's also layers of consciousness which these planets represent. So the first two most important we're going to look at is the moon and the sun, the luminaries. These are, of course, the great lights in the sky. Now, both of these are below the horizon, and you're going to want to look at the sign that each one is in. So this band around here, these glyphs are the signs of the zodiac. We can start here with Aries. This is the sign of the ram's horns. This is Taurus, the bull. This is Gemini, the twins. Cancer, the crab. Leo, the lion. Virgo, the virgin. Libra, the scales. Scorpio, the scorpion. Sagittarius, the centaur. Chiron, the water goat. It's a weird one. Aquarius, the water bearer. Pisces, the fish. Now, these signs color how these planets are going to play themselves out. They have different abilities in different signs, different natures, and they're more comfortable in some signs than others, depending on the nature of the planet. Now, without getting too deep into the schema, every second sign is going to be masculine. See, these are the masculine signs, the air and fire signs. The green in the way this chart is played out, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are green air. Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius are red fire. Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo are black earth. And then Scorpio, Pisces, and Cancer are blue water. Now, each of the four classical elements, if you know anything about these elements, are going to give you a pretty good idea about the quality of each sign. Now, within that, they're divided into seasons. Aries is cardinal for the beginning of the season. Taurus is fixed for the middle of the season, which is a more stubborn energy. And then Gemini is mutable for the end of the season. It's got more give and take. Then we're going to go back to the beginning of summer. We have another cardinal driving sign, Cancer. We have a fixed, stubborn sign, Leo, and then we have a mutable Virgo sign. And we continue on like this. These are the modes. We have a cardinal Libra sign. We have a fixed Scorpio. We have a mutable Sag. And then we move into winter. We have a cardinal Capricorn, a fixed Aquarius, and a mutable Pisces. Well, there you go. So you can start to mix and match these different elements of these signs. Now, this is the part where when you're looking at your own chart, this vast array of factors which go into delineating what a chart is and how we read a chart and how we understand it. This is where the astrologer comes in, because you're going to get a lot of contradictory messages, and so knowing all the different systems and ways to piece it together and understand how a chart is going to play out and what it means becomes the art of astrology, of course. But it's important to get a sense of it yourself, to take a look at it. So your moon is going to be your inner emotions, your inner feelings. This person has moon in Libra, so their inner emotions and feelings are going to be very much about balance. They're going to want peace and harmony around them. But it's also an air sign, and air is more about communicating and ideas and the intellectual nature. So this is going to be their inner quadrant. And being a night chart, you'd give a little more prominence to the moon and the sun in this chart. Now, the sun is more your confidence. It's your radiance. It's your royal glory. And this person's sun is in Virgo. Now, the sun is a very masculine energy, and so in general, it's not as comfortable in a yin sign. But this person's confidence is going to come from organizing things. And Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which I guess we'll get to that. But it's also an earth sign, and it's mutable. So it wants to find the best way to do things, and it's willing to try different things and think about things from a range of perspectives until it finds the most perfect way to do something. And this person is going to get confidence from being able to perfect their ideas and how they do things in the world. Earth is practical. Fire is driving and about creative energy and just fire. It's fire. You see it, right? Now, from there, we're going to look at Mercury, which is how your mind communicates, how your mind thinks about things, how you talk. It's a very logical part of you. And this person's Mercury is in Virgo, a place that Mercury is considered very powerful. Okay. It's also completely conjunct Pluto, which, I didn't plan this chart, so it's hard to. I'm jumping ahead. I shouldn't be talking about this yet, but this gives someone a very. They might be overly critical. This might make them be very intense about how they speak and think, having a Pluto Mercury exact conjunction. But it also, given the power Mercury has in Virgo, could create a very powerful thinker. From there, we need to talk about Venus, and Venus is the feminine sexual principle, but it's also our choices and desires and aesthetics. And this person has Venus in Libra. So Venus rules Libra. That's just one thing I've sort of walked past, but the planets each rule two signs. They have a feminine and masculine sign that they rule. And so if we start in Aries again, you're going to have, this is Mars's masculine rulership. And then Taurus is going to be Venus's feminine rulership. Gemini is Mercury's masculine rulership. Now we get to the luminaries. They only rule one sign each, and they're considered twins or parents, or there's many different ways to conceptualize this. But the moon rules Cancer, and the sun rules Leo. And Virgo is the feminine rulership of Mercury. Libra is the masculine rulership of Venus. Scorpio is the feminine rulership of Mars. Sag is the masculine rulership of Jupiter. Capricorn is the feminine rulership of Saturn. Aquarius is the masculine ruler of Saturn. And we get up to Pisces, which is the feminine ruler of Jupiter. So being a planet being in a sign it rules gives it more added power and expressive ability. So from there, we can look to Mars. Mars is the male sexual principle, and it's your muscles, and it's your desire to do things in the world, and your energy to get out there and accomplish them. This person has Mars in Virgo. So again, we're going to see it's going to be ruled by Mercury, and it's going to be a more critical Mars, a Mars that's more practical and doing things from a more intellectual standpoint. This Venus, which ruled by Libra, is going to be, again, it's accentuating this feminine desire for balance, as you have the two main feminine principles in the planets, Venus and the moon, in Libra. Okay. Then we can go to Jupiter. Jupiter is in Scorpio. Jupiter is expansion. Jupiter is wisdom in the long term. Jupiter is the higher mind. Jupiter is also the great benefic. Jupiter wants to bestow gifts and charity, and Jupiter, where it's placed in a chart, can be a sign, can be a place of great gifts and benefit. Can also be overindulgence. It can be many different things. Then we will move to Saturn, which is the only planet above the horizon here. Saturn is the great malefic. Saturn constricts and restrains and creates boundaries, but we all need boundaries to live and to grow, and so Saturn really rules the long-term structure of your life and the bones. Okay, we won't go too deep into the significations because we're just trying to get a sense. We're just trying to tune into this chart a little bit so you can look at it. Now, we've talked about the main planets. These are the 7 classical planets that you can see in the sky with the naked eye. But we also, in modern astrology, use 3 more planets, which is Uranus, which is here in Libra. Uranus is shock and eccentric, exciting ideas. It can lend itself a certain brilliance, but it can also be very destabilizing. Now, when we look to the outer planets, they're less a layer of consciousness and more long-term generational issues. And so what becomes important in looking at the outer planets is the aspects it makes to the inner planets, which are more personal. So Uranus here is pretty close to the moon. It's 11 degrees away. It's a little wide, but in the same sign as the moon. So this person's lunar desire for peace in Libra might be a little bit shocking. They might go a little too far in trying to take care of someone. Now, next up, we'll look at Neptune, which is the planet of dreams and mysticism and drugs and also delusions and fanaticism. Now, Neptune here is making what we call aspects. And these are the lines in the middle here. These are the aspects your chart is making. So I believe Astro-Seek uses a 7-degree orb to show these aspects. Now, this one here, a sextile, which means you're 2 signs over from something, as Neptune is in sextile to Pluto. This tends to be an aspect of ease. It's sharing a similar light balance, being close to each other, and they're both of a yin nature. Now we see a red line from Neptune here, which is going up to Mars. Now, while this is crossing a sign, it's still within an orb that most astrologers would interpret as a square. Some branches will see crossing the sign as taking away the energy of that aspect, but for the most part, it's still there. It's lessened, but you can feel it, because the sign energy of these 2 planets is both yin, and yet there is that 90-degree angle, which is a challenge. But it's not as challenging as the opposition, which we see here between Saturn and Neptune. The opposition is the most difficult aspect. But this is where planets can see each other the best. They have opposite ends that they want to reach. But don't opposites attract? When planets are opposed, they see each other clearly. They just might not get along. It's difficult, but sometimes you need that opposite energy to get anything to happen. And then we have the trine, and the trine means a planet means that it's going to be in the same element. So we have an Earth-Saturn to an Earth-Sun, or an Earth-Pluto. And these trines mean that there's a practicality to all this energy that in general is going to work pretty well together. Now, planets together, close together, as you see Mercury and Pluto here, 26 degrees. You can read the degrees here. That green line is actually Uranus, but they're all bunched up, so that's why you see the planets further away in a line to where they're actually on this grid. Conjunctions mean that they have the same agenda, but it can also be like too crowded, right? Like too many people in too close a space. You get on each other's nerves. So this is the conjunction energy, but it can be very powerful to mix those 2 energies together in that way. Now, what we haven't really talked about is these lines here. We know this is the horizon, and this is where the ecliptic gets highest. Any planet here is going to be as high as it's going to get for the most part in the sky. Not directly over you, but high up in the sky. Now, there's a meaning to all this. The ascendant is where you put energy out. It's your identity. People see themselves as their ascendant. So this person is going to see themselves as a Leo, even though they've got all this Virgo energy down here. This is where energy goes out. So you're going to want to put yourself out like the king, like the lion here. As opposed to the descendant on the western side, which is where you take energy in. This person is going to resonate with Aquarius energy, which is a more information-rich, more, it's Saturn ruled and it's air, so it's about really knowing things and really getting a firm handle on knowledge. So this person is going to want to put themselves out in a fiery way, but they're going to like to have experts around them. They're going to draw in experts. And you see, these 4 angles are what determine the houses around here. Now that's a little bit more complicated. I don't want to go too deep into the houses because we're just trying to tune in and get a sense for what a chart is. If you can understand the rising and setting significations, then you're already part of the way there to understanding the houses. I have other videos where I have a series of unique ways of explaining the signs, and I have a video of explaining the houses through unique means, and I'll get around to figuring out what I want to do to do the planets. This is like a whole series of videos just for introducing people to astrology in a unique way. Now the MC, what's highest on the ecliptic, this is the king. This is your status. This represents job. It represents what you want to do in the world. It's your purpose in a way. It's can be your career, opposed to the I see, which is your home. The I see is your ancestry and your parents and your inner motivation. So once you get these four angles grounded, then you can start to get a sense of, okay, well, what is this chart about? The MC in Aries is going to be fiery. They might work, they might have a job that's very action oriented. Their IC is in Libra, close to the moon and close to Venus, right in between. So this person's home is probably very beautiful. Probably they really want to have a nice garden and they want to have peace with the neighbors. Okay, this is just some basic ways to read the chart, and you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. There's so much to say. I don't want to go too deep in this video. I just want to give you a sense. You can go to AstroSeek and then you can scroll down and you can actually read these interpretations, cookie cutters they call them, of all these things in your chart. And while you're going to find things that contradict each other as you read through this for your own chart, but you have to start putting it together in the layers of consciousness that are the planets. And then slowly get a sense for it. Of course, this is why we hire astrologers, because it takes a lot of experience and wisdom and just ability to see through the haze and the complication of all these different significations to piece a chart together cohesively. So you're going to find things that contradict each other if you read through these. But it's a good way to just start to get a sense of it, to get a sense of astrology, to get to know yourself on a different level, to start piecing apart the layers of consciousness within you and understanding them as separate entities that all work together within this chart. Because it's a beautiful, beautiful representation of humanity. And it's worth taking some time to get into it. So get into it. Astroseek.com.